But we want a form for this, don't we? We want a form for adding new rooms. How's this work in Slack? Slack, if I say new channel, that kind of replaces all that stuff with this form. Sidebar and chat both go away. We could do the same thing if you wanted. Either way, the form should probably be a new component, right? Let's make a new component. I'll call it RoomForm. Seems legit. What happened here? Okay. How about capital R room, capital F form.js? Now, the forms that we've been making have all had state because of that whole handle change thing. So we're probably going to do the same here. So we will import both React and component from React. So we'll have a class, not a const, named RoomForm that will extend component. Don't forget export default. RoomForm at the bottom. Since it's a class, it'll need a render method. That render method will return some JSX. Inside my JSX, I'll probably put a div with a class of RoomForm. Seems to be what I do. I anticipate making some mad styles in here at some point. I'm probably going to have another element between my div and my actual form. I'll put an element called main in here, which is just like a div, but it's one of those new HTML5 elements that's just a little more semantic. Inside there, I'll put an H2 that says add or create a room. Sure. And then I'll put a form. Inside my form, I'll have a couple of fields. I'll group each label and its input inside a div or a paragraph or something. So that we get the right amount of padding, I'll just make them paragraphs. So inside a paragraph, I'll make a label that'll say room name, and then I'll put an input, type equals text. I'll give it a name of name. So then my label HTML4 should be name. So if you use labels instead of, I think we did this once before, if you use labels instead of placeholders, in regular HTML, this is just called for. That tells it which element that should match the name of the input. But for in JavaScript, of course, is a for loop. So HTML4, we call it. We can make this the autofocus, the room name. Just remember autofocus is camel cased in React. And I suppose room name should be required. Can't add a room without giving it a name. So we'll throw required on there as well. And then we need a description. So yet another paragraph. Another label for description. The description should actually, the label should actually read description. Put another input, also of type text. Name is description this time. We probably need a submit button. So after my paragraphs, I'll put a little div here for my buttons. Let's make a button of type submit. And submit, that's a bad thing to actually make the button say. Let's have it actually describe what we're going to do. Create room. Beautiful. We can go ahead and do some of that stuff that we know we're going to do. Let's go ahead and give it some state. Why not? State. I could put name and description here. I think I'm going to actually put room inside state, this.state.room, and then put name and description inside there. So name should start out blank, description should start out blank. So these are the things that are going to sync with my two inputs, right? We've done this stuff before. So now I need to set value on each of those inputs. So here's my room name. So value equals this.state.room.name. And on description, value equals this.state.room.name. I'm sorry, description, yep. If they're both named, that doesn't help us much. Description, thanks. I can't actually see this form anywhere, can I? Let's at least have a quick look at it. For just a minute. I'm going to temporarily just comment out chat and sidebar and just throw this in here. So let's import RoomForm from /RoomForm and just throw it in here. Just so I can have a look at it. There it is. Now what do you expect to happen right now? I can't type in these, right? Because they're controlled components. Because I set value on them, they are bound to the state, but the state's never changing. So this is what we expect to happen. You can't type in the forms until you do what? The onChange stuff, right? So the way we've done that before, handle change equals an arrow function. So this dot set state. It doesn't because it's the only argument to an arrow function. So it's optional. Which we've kind of done with callbacks, but we've never done for one of these. But same deal. It's still just an arrow function, so the parentheses are technically optional. If you think it's clearer, if you think it's easier for you to read, to put them there, go ahead. Yeah. At some point, I stopped doing it. I am all for consistency. So I stopped doing it at some point. But I did do it at the beginning. All right, so what we've done before is something like this.set state, but we knew which one we were doing, didn't we? We've got more than one form field here. How does this work? We're changing either name or description. So we're going to be updating this.state.room. So at the end of this, we'll probably say this.setStateRoom. So we'll start probably with a copy of what's there now. This.state.room. Question is, what happens in between? Think about it for just a moment. Just have, how about I just copy this and put it in Slack? I want people to still be able to see this. Okay, here's what I got so far. What do you think? Yeah. Definitely has something to do with event.target, yeah. Event.target.value is definitely the thing that we're going to need to set. But what are we going to set to it? Something equals event.target.value. But what? So suppose event target was this input, name. What are we wanting to change? We're going to change room.name, right? Or if it's description that changed, we want to change room.description, right? So how do we know which one it is? Say again, Troy? Event.target.name is name, or event.target.name is description. I think that has something to do with it too. So put it all together. I think event.target.name is going to be, one more time? No, not quite. How about this? So room is this object here, right? How about room square bracket event.target.name? So event.target.name is either going to be name or description, right? Put that inside square brackets there. See what happens. Oh, yeah. I never actually put the on change, did I? So here's one input on change equals this.handle change. On change equals this.handle change. Now I can type in these things. And let's look at them. RoomForm, there we go. Here's this.state.room. Change the room name. Description. Yeah. Room square bracket event.target.name equals event.target.value. See why this works now? It's getting used to the idea that you can set the things in an object by using square brackets is pretty important. You can always use dot as long as you know what that property is. But if that property is in a variable or something, you have to use square brackets. Cool. So we've got this form. but it's kind of on there all the time. I'm going to go ahead and save this component. I'm not going to change main because main right now is just showing this form all the time, and that seems bad. But just so that I have a commit that has this form in it, I'll go ahead and add it separately. Add non-working room form. So it partially works, but it doesn't actually add a new room yet.